everyone. In this part of the series, we will be talking about third generation type sequence. I'll go in my entity class and where I have selected the generation type as an identity. I'll say generation type as a sequence. As the name suggests, the ID is coming from a sequence. For example, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's one sequence. And let's say I'm talking about the second sequence 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. This is the another sequence. And let's say I am adding 2 to every number. So maybe it will start from 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's one more sequence. So in our case, the sequence is present inside the database. Whenever the sequence is present inside the database and ID is coming from that sequence, that is known as a generation type sequence. Now I have dropped the table and we have stopped the previous running process. I have changed it to the sequence. Now I have dropped the table. If you will see here, right now I do not have any table by the name called person present in my database. Once I'll just start this application again. The application has started. Now what I'll do, I'll copy this statement. I'll paste this statement onto the next line so that you can understand the exact difference between these two statements. You can see whenever we had the generation type as identity, there the table was getting created and ID was integer, not null, auto incremented. But right now ID is not null, it's not auto incremented. That means generation of ID will not be taken care by the database, but the ID will be coming from a sequence. You can see that there is one more table that has been created by the name called person sequence. When I told you that the data will be coming from a sequence, for that sequence one table has been created into database, and this table name then underscore sequence will be helping for this ID. Now I'll go into my Postman and I'll try to save the data again by the name Rahul, and I'll just click on send button and the data has been saved. Now I'll go into database and I'll try to show tables. So there are two tables that has been created till now. One is person and one is person sequence. We select star from person. You will see that ID is 1 and name is Rahul. From where this ID is coming, select star from person sequence SEQ. You will able to see the next value is 51. I'll try to save one more name by the name called Leena, and I'll try to click on this send button, and you can see that select star from person sequence. Now the next value is 101, but select star from person is giving you two rows. One is Rahul and two is Leena. So why this next value is incremented every time by 50? For that, you can see there is one class present by the name called sequence generator, and yeah, is the annotation by the name called sequence generators, which is internally being used whenever the sequences are getting generated. And you can see that the initial value is 1 and its allocation size is 50. So for 1, the allocation size will be 50, and for 2, the allocation size will start from 51 to 101. So similarly for every number, the allocation size will be 50, and because default size is 50, that's why whatever next value is coming, it is coming by addition of the 50 to it. But this sequence generated is in use by default, but you can change the values according to your requirement. But if you want to change it, then there is one annotation which you can use by the name called sequence generator. Inside the sequence generator, you can pass whatever you want to pass. First, I am going to pass a name. For this name, you have to also pass this name here. So whenever you will go into this generated value, it is taking strategy and generator. You have to define the generator and you have to tell what exactly is the name that you want for the sequence. Let's say I'm going to keep the name as sequences. The table which earlier was getting created by the name called person underscore sequence, this one, person underscore sequence. Now the table will be generated by the name called sequences. Now for what sequence, you are defining the sequence generator. I'll just paste this name here, and then I can define anything. So for example, let's say I want the initial value to be 4, then I can also define the allocation size. So I can say my allocation size in my case is 1. Okay, because in my application I have the DDL auto as update, so either I'll have to destroy the database manually, or I can also use here as create. This create will be dropping the previous schema, and it will create the new schema whenever I just start this application. I'm going to restart this. Now you can say it is dropping if the table exists by the name called person. It is dropping the table if exists by the name called sequences. Now it is creating the new table by the name called person. So that means there is no data present in my person, and then it is creating the table by the name called sequence. It has created, if I'll show you, show tables. At this step, 2 tables have been created, one by the name called sequences and one is the person. Now if I'll do select star from sequences, now you can see the next value is coming out to be 4. Whenever I'll try to save the data by any name, let's say now the name is Lena, and I'll just click on the send button, you will able to see it is taking the ID as 4. This ID has been picked up from the sequence, and inside the sequence we do not have anything else except this next value. Select star from person, and then you will able to see that the ID is 4 and name is coming out to be the Lena. I'll try to show you the next sequence. So that is 5. Now we'll just go back and I'll try to save this data by the name called Rahul, and if I'll click on the send button, the ID is coming out to be 5, but next select star from sequences is giving you the next value as 6. Now it is not incremented 50 to the previous value because I have defined my own sequence generator where I have decided the allocation size to be 1. Now I'm quickly going to create one more controller, the name called author controller. This controller will be exactly similar to this person controller. After that, I am going to have the same mappings, one to get the author and one to save the author. So this will be authors. So this authors will be returning all author. Author will be one more table. Instead of saying get persons, I'll create it as a get authors. And then after get authors, and the similar name will be present here. And this will not be saving the person, but it will be saving the author. And this save author will be the same mapping, and it is not taking the person, but it is taking the author. And it will take the author, and I'll create author service, and this author service will be exactly like this person service. I'll make this as a service. I'll have to make this repository, author repository. I'll just copy everything till here and I'll paste it into author service. Yeah, so this is done, and then after I'll make this author repository instead of person repository, author repository, and from this author repository I'll be finding all, and from this author repository I'll be trying to save the data, not the person but the author. Instead of saying get persons, it will be get author, right? And because right now I do not have any repository, I'll create one more repository by the name called author repository. And for this repository I'll need one more model by the name called author. This author is exactly similar to this person. I'll copy the annotations which are present here and I'll paste it here. Also I'll go into this person and I'll try to copy the same data and I'll paste it in my author. Now what I want to show you is that right now for author table and for person table I am trying to use the same sequence table. So I'll go into this repository and I'll have to make it an interface instead of a class, and I'll say extends JPA repository and I'll pass author because my table name is author and the ID is of type integer. I'll pass this integer and I'll import this author, right? And I'll go back to controller and here I'll try to autowire private author service, and this author service will be here which will be getting all the authors, and I'll have to import this author, and this will be author service again, and this will be taking author in this. Now I'll go back here and it is returning author, so I'll just import the author here. Author repository, I'll have to import this author repository. So everything is done. It will be returning you author and the name should be save author. and this method I should be calling from the controller. Now I'll have two tables, one with the name called person and one with the name called author. Now I want to ask you that whether there will be two sequences or there will be only one sequence. So I'll just stop it and I'll try to rerun this application. You can see it is dropping the table if already exists by the name called author. It's dropping the table if there is a table present by the name called person. It is dropping the sequences. Now it is creating author, it is creating table, and it is also creating sequences. So that means the same sequence will be used for author as well as for person. Now I'll go back into my Postman and I'll try to save this data by the name called Rahul, and I'll click on this send button. Now you can see because my initial value is 4, so that's why for Rahul I have the ID is 4. Now I'll create one more request. Now I want to save author. Inside this body I am passing the data. Name is author. Now I'll try to send this and you will see that the ID is coming out to be 5 because the next value present inside my sequences was 5, so that's why it was taking 5. Now I'll try to save author 2. It will be taking the next value from the sequences, which is 6. So the next value will be 6. But whenever I'll try to save the data inside this person by the name called Lina, now next value will be 7. It will not give you 5. So if I'll click on the send, it will give you the 7. So that means the same sequence is getting used for two tables. One next value will be picked up from the person, and next value, if next value is getting inserted into the next table, then that next value will be again picked up from that sequence table. Now can you think, is it thread safe or not? You can see whenever it is selecting the next value from the sequences, it is also having this 4 update. So 4 update is for taking a lock, and whenever it is selecting the next value from the table, at that time it is taking a lock so that none of the other table can update the value. And that's how for multiple tables we can have one sequence and only one table will able to change that value at one time. So yeah, that is it for the sequence type. Thank you so much.